Well, hello there, FC Dallas Curious fans, and welcome to Third Degree of the podcast. Unfortunately, today we're without Peter again. He's real life is certainly factoring in there. So you've just got myself, Dan, and founder and editor at Third Degree, Buzz Carrick. How are you, Buzz?
Good. Calling in today from El Paso, Texas, for reals. And that's why Peter's not here, because of my work tomorrow. We had to change the day we record this, and Peter has a commitment on Wednesdays. So we are recording Wednesday. This is immediately after the San Antonio game against FC Dallas. So we have some thoughts on that. We have thoughts on lots of other stuff. So blame me that Peter's not here. This one's my fault. We got lots of stuff to talk about.
I honestly didn't realize it was a different day. It's this week's gone a bit quick for me. So you're down in El Paso scouting the next Pepe?
I wish. No, working the basketball game tomorrow, the UTEP Western Kentucky basketball game.
Ah, okay. So, as you mentioned, FC Dallas just got off a comeback 3-2 win. Well, should we start there, or should we start for the Austin game?
Well, if you have some things to bring to the table from the Austin game, go ahead.
I really don't. I didn't get to see all of it. What I did see, it was very typical preseason, 30-minute periods, cycling out lineups. Definitely the best results we have is Nico's write-up over on the blog. There were a couple of things stuck out for me, Cerrillo had a bit of a tough time, although he actually mentioned in a quote after the game about playing a little bit higher up than the 6 that he sat in last season. We actually saw that again tonight, although he definitely adapted more to that role. It's going to be tough. Obviously, with Thiago Santos coming in at 6, he does have to be a little bit more versatile and find his place in the lineup again.
Yeah, Cerrillo is not a native 6. He is a native 6, and not a native 8. He has played a little bit of 8 in the academy, but I don't think that's his future. Trying him there as a little bit of an 8, I sort of get that. Maybe with all these pieces missing, that's something they want to try and do. As a result of that, and he didn't look as great against Austin, but he looked better against San Antonio. As a result of that, we've now seen John Nelson play as a 6 for both in the Austin game and in the San Antonio game. Twice now as a 6, which is obviously a search to see if John Nelson could be Thiago Santos' backup, at least in the short term, and maybe even in the long term. The outside back to central midfield 6 conversion is not that difficult. You see it all the time. Players, it requires similar sort of raw ability and skill set. So if John Nelson can solve that problem, then FC Dallas won't have to go out and get somebody. But if he doesn't, and it seems clear that they don't think Edwin Cerrillo is ready to do that either, they may feel like they have to go get somebody if it doesn't work out. I thought Nelson looked fine for a young guy trying a new position, so I wouldn't be ready to pull a trigger yet on it. But we'll have to see how Lucci reacts to what he's seen from Nelson and what he's seen from Edwin as an 8. The only thing I would lament about Edwards as an 8 the last 2 games, other than if you're trying to figure out if he can do something else for you, is that both of those games were more opportunities I would have thought for Thomas Roberts to work on his ability to be an 8 and work on that defensive side, because in this current team, he's probably going to have a better chance to get on as an 8 than as a 10 type. Not that Lucci uses a 10, but the free 8, whatever that. You want to be able to use him in both positions. So I would have liked to have seen some investment in Thomas Roberts. But I guess from one of the team Twitter accounts, we hear that maybe there's a little bit of a physical issue with Thomas Roberts. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, Michael Ramirez, the social media coordinator for the team, was providing some updates and mentioned Roberts not necessarily being 100%. It's funny, I'd asked Lucci kind of late in the season about the possibility of Roberts moving back to 8. We kind of saw it a little bit with North Texas SC last season in some games, and he just sits in the middle of the park and dictates it. He can put a ball on a dime from 60 yards, so it just kind of seemed like the natural fit. And Lucci's reaction was like, I could virtually hear him scratching his head down the phone, just going, maybe.
You can see that that's not something they think is likely, or if you combine the fact that maybe he is a little banged up, that we saw Tanner Tessman play against San Antonio, who is a natural 8. And that probably is indicative both of the lack of bodies in the central midfield right now and where they think of how highly they think of Tanner Tessman and his situation. Maybe we could talk more about him a little later on. But, in the context of missing all these players, they're missing in the midfield. Brian Acosta, Brandon Cervania, both out for like a month. Paxton Pomykal out until who knows when. That's a worry. Thomas Roberts apparently with some kind of knock too. So we got to figure out some bodies, and between Nelson in there and seeing Tanner in there, you can tell how short they are.
Definitely, and we'll definitely get back to those injuries because we're getting to that point of the preseason where we're looking at next man up to start in the first game in some places. But looking at the game tonight, bit of an interesting one. First half, I saw a lot of people on Twitter kind of acting as if Rome was burning. What we saw a lot was really similar to what we've seen in practice and what we see in scrimmages. Lucci really wants to emphasise building out from the back, so that's why we saw both centre backs, really on the edges of the 6-yard box with Jesse on every goal kick and trying to really just play every options. Jesse kind of misplaced a pass early on, which, if it wasn't for quick reactions by a defender, San Antonio probably score an early one. Yeah, but it was a lot of building out, a lot of overlaps. It wasn't. I mean, it was preseason. It was guys getting fit, people trying concepts, getting to know teammates. The result really not that important.
Yeah, when you talk about preseason games, one thing Oscar used to say is when you're evaluating a game, the last thing you look at is the goals. Goals. There's so many things that can impact a goal. It's like you evaluate a player for doing their job in the context of the team. And in a case of a preseason game, we don't know what Lucci's instructions are. For all we know, his instructions were, I want you to build out of the back on the ground, and I want this exact sequence, and I want you to do it every time, no matter what. So it's like it's not necessarily the way that they will play when you get to the regular season. They might have been working on something very specific. They might have not been trying to do any transitional play at all. They might have wanted to, in a sense, put themselves under pressure the whole time. So we don't evaluate it on the grand scheme of things. We evaluate players in the context of things.
And I think, there was actually a really good example. I can't remember if it was preseason last year or one of those mid-season friendlies, but there was a friendly that they played. Ryan Hollinshead was running the ball basically to the halfway line and then passing it back. And it looked so out of place. But I spoke to Lucci after. I was just like, hey, were you trying to recycle the play there? Because it just looked weird. And he was like, yeah, we wanted to build out. If we got out, go back and build out again. We wanted real pressure from a real opponent, but at the same time, we're still trying to work on concepts here. There's no points on the board. So, and I got to say, one thing I always remember people saying back home, working in the game was, if you win every preseason game, you're going to have a crap season because nobody learned anything. I mean, obviously you want to, build some momentum and confidence in your players, but they need a hard learning experience in somewhere. And one of the things Lucci talked about before this game was going down to San Antonio because it has a good atmosphere and it's going to be a good contest. And they got a smack on the nose. They went 2 down and they fought back like an MLS game.
Well, let's talk about some of the things we saw tonight and some of our impressions. I have 2 that are big ones for me. One was, I thought Thiago Santos was really good. You can see his game reading and his ability to turn the ball and advance it and all the qualities that you look for in a 6. He covers side to side and he's there when the ball gets turned over. He's there to recover. I like all those things. So he, again, was impressive to me, and his fitness is coming up. The other thing is I actually was reinforced some concerns I have about the defense. I talked about this about a week and a half ago on my little Patreon things I do for supporters. And I'm just a little bit concerned about the stand patness of the defense in the sense that if you look at Ryan Hollinshead, a great player, he looked great tonight. What are the chances that he can reproduce that amazing season last year? I mean, even if he has a really good season, is it going to be that good? It's going to be really hard to duplicate it at that level. And then you look at Reto Ziegler, who's 34. He's going to look good tonight, no question. But if you're talking about the length of a long season at that age and that heat, and is he going to break down or hold up? That's an important question to ask.
Well, you
And then
say he looked good, but he kind of got roasted on that second goal from
he did.
Gallegos.
He did, but he had a lot of good points too. I mean, those are the kind of goals he's always given up. That one, he was. I think he was expecting some pressure, some help pressure from the inside that didn't come from Nelson. Nelson was content to sort of leave the channel and not compress and push him wide. That would have helped. But like the free kicks from Reto. Reto looked like Reto. I mean, he looked like he always has looked to me. So, but I think tonight you saw what I saw from Brisson this spring was he looks a little stiff to me. He looks not as immobile as he looked last year. I have concerns about that. It's not based on how old he is. Other than just watching him play, he doesn't look as comfortable and as smooth as he has in the past. And I don't know whether he didn't come in fit or did he overwork himself over the winter. I don't know what to say about it other than I don't like what he looks like. Reggie looked like Reggie, and that's fine. But you have Hedges in there who's usually pretty consistent. But between those five pieces, you're basically returning the exact defense as the last year now, and that sometimes makes me worry. So I'm a little bit worried about the defense. I'm a lot worried, but there's a couple of games now in the spring where they've given up a couple of goals, and I don't love the look of it. But again, we don't know what they're working on. It may be that they're working on so much build out that the ball's going to be stuffed down their throat a lot because they're always working on build out, trying to implement more Lucci ball. So it's not necessarily fair representations of what you're going to get in the regular season, but I do have some slight concerns about the defense.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those. That run from Jose Gallegos, that kind of in between the wide and central positions. I've seen FC Dallas in preseason, whether it's intra-squad scrimmages, external scrimmages, or an outright friendly. I've seen that run get through time and time again. That is kind of their problem area where, like you say, the six either needs to step outside or you need to have someone covering back on the outside and sort of swinging in. And you could see on that run, Reto's just kind of, he's like marshalling him, but he's not trying to push him outside, which is kind of what you'd like to see there a little bit more and, give someone one of the defenders the space to run into. But it just seems to be too much of a common occurrence, that specific run.
Yeah, and that filling that gap is a question of help defense, which, you're going to get exposed on that some getting forward as much as you do in Lucci ball. But also, Ryan Hollingshead is the progress he's made is remarkable, but still sometimes his defensive instincts are not 100% on the money about when to help or not. And then again, when you're talking about what I see as a little bit of immobility in Brisson and the age of Ziegler, you're talking about two center backs that have trouble, with the range that you need to have to get over there and get that gap filled necessarily. And part of it too is getting to know a new six or younger sixes who don't know necessarily to cover that gap on the top or cover it from the inside and forcing the defender to go to the wide angle. So it's a work in progress. And like I said, I'm not massively concerned, but I have some small concerns in that area. That's one of the areas of concerns I have is that particular aspect of the defense.
Definitely. And one thing, actually, we sort of touched on the defense, and I guess we sort of missed Nkosi Burgess and all that, the draft pick. I thought he was really impressive against Austin. He didn't seem to put a foot wrong again tonight. Granted, by the time he came in, there wasn't a whole lot going on in the defensive third. Be interesting to see what Nico comes back with from the 30-minute scrimmage afterwards, assuming he has that in his report. But we're definitely going to see a lot of him in North Texas SC.
Yeah.
And hopefully watch his game grow. I did definitely come away with the impression that his passing game, from the things that we saw in those first couple of days, has had a monumental rise in quality.
Yeah, he deserves a lot of credit for a remarkably quick improvement. And this is down to both his coaching and his teammates, too, who have not been harsh on him and made him feel welcome. And so he's recovered his confidence and made some big progress really quickly. It makes me really excited for maybe to see where he can go. And the other side of that coin too is Callum Montgomery. I thought looked pretty good for San Antonio tonight. He showed some good range of mobility and size and speed and strength. The passing still is the one weak spot, but that's one reason why we wanted to see an elevation to a USLC level with him. And there is a right of recall in that deal. So if there's a point at which they feel they need him, they can bring him back. And in the meantime, if he's there 5 games, if he's there 10 games, if he's the whole season, what an opportunity for him to progress this game and hopefully be maybe he's part of the answer at the midpoint of the season or going into next year in terms of solving some of what might be defensive issues going down the stretch.
Definitely. I actually thought he was probably San Antonio's best player in the first half. He really dealt with everything. He was, he was definitely he was taking none of Barrios' little step overs or anything. He got stuck in a few times. I guess it's kind of like when Brock Evans came on last week for Austin. They've got a point to prove, and they're going to do it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a powerful thing to sort of have behind you. To know that you may not be trying to earn your place in the team right this second, but you're impressing your new coach, and you're really showing FC Dallas what they're missing this year and what they can expect the year after.
For sure, I think Montgomery and Nkosi are a little bit older, and Evans is a little bit further down the line, but those 3 guys probably should be part of the defensive equation for FC Dallas over the next couple of seasons, you would think.
It's definitely promising. With Reto getting to the twilight of his career, and Hedges and Bressan really being at what should be just entering their peak years. FC Dallas could be in a good position for a couple of years to come, or at worst case, have some good trade assets. I guess we touched on some injuries and mentioned Hedges. Hedges didn't travel with the team at a quad strain that he's been dealing with. I didn't see a timeline for him, but I assume it's not going to be a particularly long one.
Yeah, they didn't say specifically. I was actually surprised he wasn't included again. But when you have a 5-hour bus ride, I think it's how far it is to San Antonio from Dallas. 5-hour bus ride each way in a hotel and a game, and maybe it's better just to keep him out. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean you can keep him, doing some gym work and some rehab. Get him in those big oxygen boot things they love so much, and the cryo chamber and all that fun stuff. Sylvania as well, out with an MCL sprain, potentially puts him in some trouble for starting the season. I know Steve Davis mentioned on the broadcast against Austin that he should really be touch and go for the first game, but he's not going to be really preseason. He's not really going to be match fit coming straight into training that week.
It makes me wonder if he'll get called in for the Olympic team now with this scenario, with this injury, whether that'll cost him that opportunity.
So that's the second week of March, right? So
the call-up will happen right after the March 7th, 8th games, which is the second week of March. So it's basically 2 weeks into the season and those call-ups happen.
Yeah, that does seem like it'd probably put him on the outside of that. As well, Paxton Pomykal, another game didn't go with. We keep hearing the same thing that they hope that he'll be better by the end of the week, dealing with a scar tissue, and that it's unfortunately a very much day-to-day thing.
Yeah,
we're getting 2 weeks out from the start of the season. He hasn't played a game. It's I know we've spoken, and neither of us really expected him to factor in starting lineup anyway, but. Again, a player not having a pre-season is a real heavy disadvantage, and really until the summer.
It is. It'll take him, a month or more to work himself into fitness, 100% fitness. He's running, but he's not the same as game fitness. He's got to work himself into the team. And the bottom line is he's going to have to beat out Jesus Ferreira to get on the field at that one particular position, or he's got to beat out Brian Acosta or Brandon Cervino, who are both hurt right now and out probably a month. Or he has to try and beat out somebody like Pico or Mosquera at left wing. So it's like there's no assurance that Paxton's going to walk right into the lineup. As talented as we think he is, you still have to do it. You have to produce in training and be healthy and be consistently available. In this scar tissue situation, I am starting to get a little bit worried about how long it's taking. Usually, you want once that break loose tissue happens, it takes a little bit of time for you to get over the pain of it, the discomfort of it, as your body like absorbs that tissue back up. If I understand it correctly from talking to players, occasionally they actually go in on somebody and clean some of it out a little bit, like with a follow up. So I don't know where the club is with Paxton. I don't know anything about their plans for him in terms of fixing this problem. But I think at this point, when we're 2 weeks away from the start of the season, I think you can assume that Paxton will not be. Not that we thought he would start the opening game, but it's probably not likely he'll play for the first week or two. And that also, for me, that also puts his Olympic call up in question. If he can't play for FC Dallas, why is he going to the Olympics? He already went to the national team, which is a significantly higher level. It's a step up in intensity. It's a step up in the amount of effort and work and constant motion it takes. And obviously, that was where he had his setback. So I don't know if the club will want to release him if he hasn't played for the club yet. So why would we release him to the national team, even to the Olympic team? Just for some qualifiers, which is going to suck for Paxton, but you got to protect your young player from himself sometimes, because Paxton will say he's good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he did with the national team. He probably was like, "Oh, I'm fine, I can go."
Yeah, Lucci actually confirmed that to me. He said, that when I initially asked him a couple of weeks ago, he said, it was a problem since before the call-up, but the call-up was there so that Paxton could be in the team meetings, absorb the tactical information, and remain part of Greg Berhalter's plans. Because we all know if you miss a camp, that could kind of be curtains, as managers kind of have a personal attachment to certain things there. Obviously it's a pain issue. It's not like an injury as such. So there is the possibility of cortisone shots to get him through a game or to get him through something, but obviously those then they can have a longer term issue. Likewise, they could go in and clean up scar tissue, but the risk is creating more scar tissue.
Yeah, it's not a good situation. It's not a tough situation, and there's a point at which, and this may be what's happening. There's a point at which you have to protect the player from himself and protect the player from the short term in favor of the long term. And it may be time for FC Dallas to say, Paxton, we know that you want to play. We get it, but we're shutting you down. And it may be why all we keep hearing is, he's close, because they may not want to say, we're going to shut him down for a month or two or whatever it's going to take to get him ready. Because right now he's clearly not ready.
My only experience with scar tissue is after having an operation on my Achilles tendon. And it was daily ultrasound and massages and those vibrating hammery things and all kind of things that cause you a stupid amount of pain. The groin area with the hernia, it's not really somewhere that you can get into too well with extreme heat and large things that kind of pound you. So, there's got to be some logistical challenges just with that.
There's all kinds of thoughts going through my head, and I'm not going to say any of them.
Oh, go on.
It's not that kind of podcast. It's just, until we learn more, it's going to be hard to know. But it's definitely, there's definitely some concern by the club. There's definitely some concern, I think, from us. When you see him running on the practice, when I last saw him, which was about before they went to California. So when I last saw him running, he's running grimacing. So there's definitely some discomfort. So, I think it's important to remember how young Paxton is and how much of a big future he has and how much the club is paying him, because they know what a big future he's going to have. And we shouldn't be in a hurry to just get him right back out there, because I think that was part of the problem last year. Is he needs to get it right and get it cleaned up. And right now, Freya's in there and Brian Acosta or Cervini will be in there. Or I guess if they're not going to be, and right now Evan Cerrillo's going to be in there. So it's not necessarily like those guys are, not Paxton, but, we'll take it and protect the player and worry about the future.
Definitely. And it's always worth emphasizing as well, this isn't something similar to Mauro Diaz, where he kind of had, injury after injury after injury. This is just a regular complication after a surgery. It's just kind of coming up in a bit of an inconvenient manner for him and hindering me a little bit more where, just with the location of it, like you say, you work in the hip flexor and that, and you've got this scar tissue that's rubbing up against tendons and ligaments.
Yeah. Well, we've beaten this to death. Let's move on to the next.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to, before we move off of the San Antonio game, I want to put some comments in on Fafa Pico. I thought he looked pretty good. He showed a directness, a verticality, and impacted the game, I think, more than we've seen from Santiago Mosquera. I think this might have been the moment where Fafa Pico is putting himself into the opening day lineup over Mosquera.
Yeah, this is definitely the stuff that we've seen a bit more in practices. Just where he's able to get that space away. There was a defensive clearance that he picked up just shy of the halfway line, and I mean, if not for a pretty stern challenge by one of the defenders, he's got a one-on-one chance there. We saw a couple of great little give and goes with Hollinshead. It's going to be really interesting to see someone who is, I'm not going to say at a higher level than Mosquera, because Mosquera on his day is a phenomenal player, but has the consistency that everyone's wanted to see from Mosquera.
There's a little bit of a, we've been talking for years since Castillo left about a balance to Barrios, style-wise, a matching component. And there's a better fit there from Fafa Pico, the verticality, the want to get and go. Mosquera wants to come inside underneath all the time. It'll be important to watch how the relationships develop between Fafa and Hollingshead and Cobra and even Ferreira or whoever else coming out of midfield and checking towards him. So it's going to be a work in progress with him as well. But there were some positive signs there today, I thought. I think it's, as we've said in the spring, we thought he was going to be a good addition that was going to help this team be better. And I think it was clear today. But for everybody else to see what we've been talking about.
Definitely, absolutely. Like I say, that balance is really important. We know that Barrios' game is he gets to the byline and he'll smash it across and try and create some chaos, whereas Mosquera would cut inside way too early and find himself 30 yards out and just smash it because he has no options. It's good to see Pico was able to mix it up. He was able to cut inside, but also, he's happy just to get to the byline and just try and play pinball in the box, which really is what Lucci was trying to drill into the wingers. If you're not cutting inside early, smash it low, smash it hard, hope it hits the defender, see who gets a rebound, or just let it go in.
Well, that's why it's so important for Cobra to be in the box too, or whoever else plays striker, to be in there when those balls come in, because you got to spend most of your time in there and knock them in. And
that was Pepe's goal. Get to the byline, low ball, throw himself at the ground, and get on the end of it.
And that was Cobra's a goal against Austin when the ball in from Reggie Cannon from the right side, where she flipped on so nicely. Cobra did to the back post. So, that's the style they're going to be playing when they get forward down those sidelines. Which is nice.
Man, I got some loud motorbikes in El Paso.
Oh, did you? I didn't even hear it. Mike's pretty good. Yeah, street racing out here in the big EP.
Wow. It's impressive.
Well, I got my noise damping headset on, so I didn't hear it.
You fancy I've got my cheap $7 earbuds in. So one thing I did want to touch on, North Texas SC started preseason this weekend. They play their first, not this weekend, on Monday. They play their first preseason game against El Paso Locomotive in 10 days' time. I'm not sure if that's home or away. I didn't see that anywhere. But, unfortunately, weather actually kept us both away from practice this week.
Yeah, the weather was pretty poor.
Yes, that's putting it mildly. The paint has been stripped off my car.
Wow.
Well, not literally. Thankfully, the bird crap has, though. But, it's going to be a really new look North Texas SC this year. The majority of the season is going to be in Arlington. I think you said it was 4 returning players.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of new signings. So, And we had another one this week as Luis Zamudio, a 21-year-old goalkeeper, joins from Club America, where he was the, I think, fifth choice keeper or something crazy. He made the bench a couple of times and was a prospect originally from Las Vegas. Part of that, I'm going to butcher this, but Sueño?
Yeah, Mel Sueño,
yeah. Unfortunately, that finished a couple of years ago, so no need to know how to say that. But he was somebody that the LA Galaxy really rated, and it'd be kind of interested to see if how they treat him as a project alongside of Carlos Aviles.
Yeah, I think the fact that there was another foreign keeper that popped up with the academy this week too. I think it's pretty clear that there's some pressure on Aviles to prove something this year. Between Maurer and Zobek both being roughly 30, somebody needs to start challenging Zobek for that third spot. So if Aviles is not going to do it, they might try to start looking in another direction and see what's going on. So some pressure on him this year. Keep an eye on that kid and see how much he's playing and see if this Zamito guy takes over the spot. That might be a bad sign for Carlos.
It kind of looked a bit iffy at the start of last season when all the talk about the team's first USL signing is Ricardo Pepi, and you're there like, no, it was Aviles last year and this year.
Yeah. 2 years ago.
Yeah. He kind of seemed a bit forgotten about, and then again, kind of like you say, with challenging Maurer and Zobek, obviously Lucci was sending one or the other down occasionally to stay sharp, which denied Aviles some minutes. So, it seems like putting Zobek in the USL One final where he was man of the match, he was phenomenal.
He was.
That kind of makes it seem like, hey, maybe you haven't earned your stripes enough to play in this final.
Yeah, when it came to the big game, they didn't trust him enough. They brought down one of the other guys. That's. It's not necessarily intended as a shot to the kid, but it tells you where, when it did come down to now this is a game we need to win, they went with the guy who was the 30-year-old veteran and they didn't have enough confidence in Aviles. So that tells you where he is, I think, big picture. And one of the things I think you'll want to keep an eye on this season with North Texas is, now they've won the championship. Now it's time to play David Rodriguez every single game, play these other developing players every single game, and not be like, we're trying to win as much as we are. I don't care if it costs us games. We're going to take these young players and play them. So I think you'll keep an eye on that this season and see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, they could win USL League One for the next 10 years, but if there isn't an academy... Oh, actually, let's forget academy for it. If there isn't a North Texas 2 FC Dallas signing that isn't Ricardo Pepi, because we all know that was going to happen anyway, the team's a failure. The
exactly.
5 million plus that they've sunk into it so far is worthless, and everything that goes along with it.
Yeah, now, there is a point to the business model of selling players to other teams and loaning players to other teams. But the whole reason it exists is to produce first-team MLS players. And if it's not doing that, as you say, then it's a failure. So part of that is forgetting the idea of being in first place the whole season and bringing down all these MLS guys. You'll still get MLS guys that need to get fit. You still get MLS guys recovering from injury, but it's going to be less about that and more about, I don't care if I lose some games. I'm playing. Let's say I decide Nico Carrera is my next guy I want to invest in. I'm playing him every game. I don't care what it costs me. You know what I mean? That's the idea.
And it's worth saying, some of these the foreign guys are bringing in. Alpha Senijat is a perfect example. We heard through the grapevine that his loan deal had an option that was dependent on FC Dallas putting him in the first team roster.
Correct.
If they wanted him permanently, evidently they didn't. Didn't quite work out. Those are the sort of things we're going to see. And we've got, a couple of these guys. You've got Juan Alvarez from Monterrey. I assume there's an option on that. 23-year-old centre back who he just hasn't really had the breaks
Yeah.
at Monterey.
And at 23, that's going to be a one and done. If by the end of the year, if you don't think we're out awesome, then he won't be around past this year. It's different if he's 18.
Yeah, it's also the nature of the team. The team's not there to keep guys on contracts. The team's there to cycle through players and as a staging ground for your next homegrowns.
Yeah, what's it Lucci says? He says if we don't think a player could progress to help the first team, we're not going to sign him for North Texas. And so then the question is, over the course of the season, if I don't see that progression, Hector Montalvo, then it's over. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, and that was what he said when I asked him about Derek Wardeck, about the possibility of him going to North Texas SC. He was giving me the most non-committal answer ever of he is a project, but here's the cutoff.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the problems with these guys that are coming out of college at 22 years of age. When you compare them to the opportunity to play an academy kid who's 16, 17 years old and has as much as a 5 to 7 year head start and 5 to 7 years of more progression you can put into them before they get to the MLS team. So there's this humongous disadvantage to these guys that play these 4 years in college and then try and come out and aren't first team MLS potential, that aren't Nkosi Burgess and they aren't Cal Jennings. These guys that are this next level down, they're just, what's the point of having a 22, 23-year-old in your North Texas team? It's just not what the team exists for. Short of maybe your own academy guys that you have a relationship with, like your Philip Ponder, who you've known since he was 13 or whatever.
But again, that's kind of more like the staging ground for a homegrown son. If he, he's got a year or two where he can prove himself, or he's going to be a USL Championship or find other opportunities.
Right.
It's kind of an extension of that whole FC Dallas Academy, FC Dallas Premier, where Premier is there to try and point guys at going to university. In that instance, North Texas SC would be a case of, well, we don't want you for the first team, but we're going to put you in the shop window for your El Pasos and your OKCs and your Tulsas.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where we've seen Hector Montalvo just pop up with El Paso Locomotive. But I have no idea where he is in terms of making that team or not, but we've seen him in training with them. So, that if a guy's not going to be moving on to the MLS team, there's a difference between a Breck Evans, who you think still has first team potential, so you're loaning him, and a guy like Hector Montalvo, who you've decided doesn't, and so you let him out to go pursue other opportunities. And I don't know whether he would have asked out or whether the team just told him he was out or whatever, but such is life at the North Texas level, where the window is very, very small if you're not 18.
Well, he's actually the perfect example because he is a very good player. But, that time at Tigres just robbed him of a lot of his sharpness, and he came back and he just looked off it and potentially needed a couple of years to kind of get back to that level. And that is, again, something that they're just not offering.
Yeah, that's not the purpose of North Texas.
Wow. Especially speaking of Tigres, that was a great thing with the Mexican Superstars package. I wonder if maybe they could rope Montalvo into that.
I don't think El Paso Locomotive is on the FC Dallas schedule for a ticket package.
That's a shame. Although they are
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Although, actually, speaking of El Paso, they are going to play at Texas United in Grand Prairie as part of the preseason. So maybe that'll be when they play North Texas SC around that time, and kind of just loop in a bit of every USL league.
Well, that would make sense if they're coming here to play Texas United. They might as well play North Texas while they're here. That would make sense.
Definitely, and yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got to talk about the Mexican Superstars. It's trended everywhere. It's been in the Spanish language media. It's been on Sports Center. It's been absolutely everywhere. It is probably a bigger headline than the Zlatan jerseys on the concourse.
Yeah. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know that people are going to agree with my take on this. Let me first say that I 100% agree with this and sympathize with the idea that you and me and everybody else would like FC Dallas to spend more money. We'd like to have some superstars come here. We'd like to have that happen. I 100% agree that that's a complaint that's worthwhile complaining about. I 100% agree that most people don't like the execution of this promo. But the other side of the coin is that everybody in pro sports all across the United States does this. The Mavericks back in the 80s and 90s did these kind of deals where you could get the superstar package when Jordan was coming to town and when Patrick Ewing was coming to town. And I believe me, I work in sports television. I've been around NBA teams for close to a decade. I'm telling you that this kind of ticket deal happens all over the place. When you're Kobe, you could get your Kobe games when he's coming to town. You could buy a package for Lakers and other superstar games. Everybody in sports does this, unless you're the team that can sell out your home stadium at the start of the season with season tickets. Now, like everything else FC Dallas does, the execution is not great. They've taken what's a basic idea and they've not done a good job with it. We are talking about one tweet, and we are talking about one ticket package of many ticket packages they have. So I personally don't think it's a big deal that they've done this package. However, and you and I have talked about this, the execution of it was really bad. The way they should have done it, and I'm not going to steal your thunder because I know you and I have talked about this exact concept, is it would have been better to spin it as perhaps a USA versus Mexico. Our young USA stars, Paxton Jesus and Brandon Cervania, are going to take on these Mexican superstars. There's a way to have done it that would have been better and more appealing. But again, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to make up new and interesting and different ticket packages to try and sell some tickets. FC Dallas has got an attendance problem. If you can sell a few tickets by letting people know that some Mexican superstars are coming here, I don't think it's a problem. So that's my take.
Yeah, like you say, the execution was ill thought of, and the problem with that is you've got a marketing department that should know better. You're running graphics through several different departments, seeking all the permissions and everything from everybody. At some point, someone should have said, "Hey guys, why do we not frame this as, like you say, Paxton against Chicharito, exactly. USA versus Mexico?"
Yep.
That's kind of been FC Dallas's problem. And the funny thing is, they had another package they launched on the same day. It was about the US national team. And it was kind of weak. It featured like Corey Baird for some bizarre reason of RSL. And it wasn't enticing, but that was it. It was USA versus USA. It was Paxton versus Baird and whoever versus Jesus. And, that's the kind of thing you want to do. You want to say, you make your superstars by telling people, hey, these guys are superstars. They're going to play, they're going to play some big names that you may have heard of. And I'll get to why that was kind of a weird thing as well. But it's just basics. And especially in soccer, where it is a far more territorial sport than any of the American sports. You have away fan sections and all that fun stuff, and just a different kind of atmosphere with the supporter culture.
The complaint that this is the only thing they're doing, that's a fair complaint. If this is their only marketing strategy, totally a fair complaint. If your complaint is this is a horrible Latino Mexican market outreach, you already think you ignore them, and this is sort of a pandering to that. If you want to complain about that, those are fair complaints. It's the execution. It's not the core idea of targeted ticket packages. It's the execution of the sales approach that's the bad side that they fumbled the ball.
And that's like you mentioned it. You kind of hit the nail on the head. Like it is a poor outreach to the Hispanic community. You've had so many players pass through here of Honduran, Salvadoran, and every other nationality that has a decent population in DFW. As far as the Spanish language in general, the team have really turned their back on, or the club, I should say, have really turned their back on that market for a very long time. I know there have been a lot of proposals from people who are no longer with the team to create Spanish language content, and it got shot down. the team has lost its Janet Sanchez, who was doing some bilingual stuff in Spanish with subtitles, and they haven't replaced that, which is kind of a weird thing because that is such a huge market. You can see any time the Mexican national team's in town, they can fill up Jerry World with ease.
Yeah.
You know, you need to jump on that, and just putting up a canopy outside of Jerry World among all the 50,000 other people that are tailgating, you're not going to stand out in the crowd. You're not going to entice people up to Frisco.
Yeah, as a basic symptom, it's a shame that the FC Dallas website doesn't have a English version and a Spanish version. I mean, even the Montreal Impact have a French version and an English version, right? So
I think Montreal actually have a Spanish version as well.
Do they have? Oh, I haven't seen Spanish.
There's a couple of teams that have really made an effort in cities that don't have a huge Spanish-speaking population.
Well, Montreal, when you go there, it comes up in French. In the top right corner is a big, huge English button. So, you know, it's like, to me, real quickly, I'm going to check the Dynamo website and see if they have one. I don't see one on Dynamo's website either. So
that's actually a complaint about the Dynamo as well.
Yeah, if you're going to operate, I mean, particularly with some of their ownership, that's really a complaint. If you're going to operate a team in Texas, to me, and listen, I don't speak Spanish at all. So, you know, I can't do it. I'm just saying that if you're going to market a team and sell a team in Texas, how do you not have a Spanish button? I bet you the Cowboys have a Spanish button. What do you want to bet?
Oh yeah, I mean you can buy Cowboys flags and stuff from them with the Cowboys helmet font, and then but it says Vaqueros instead. You know, they
Vaqueros FC. Sue them. Hitchcock, sue them.
Don't give them any ideas.
Yeah. Yep, there it is, Spanish button right there on the right side of the Cowboys.com.
It's just logic, right? I mean, it just makes sense, and if you're shunning a market that aren't going to come to you, just making an advert that they're not going to see isn't going to help. You know, we heard it on the Cholos game. Cholos fans didn't know the game was happening. FC Dallas didn't market it. Cholos had no real reason to market it. So their fans in the area were like, wait, we played? What?
You know who used to have Spanish content? Third Degree.
Oh.
We used to, back when one of our writers emeritus, Chamo Jones, used to write his articles both in English and Spanish, and we would post them both.
You know, I always wondered if it was Camo or Chamo, and now I know. Thank you.
Chamo Jones. Clifton. But, you know, and there have been other people that have written in Spanish for us too. So, you know, it's obviously, since I don't speak Spanish, I don't have the wherewithal and the ability to do that with high frequency. And right now we don't have anybody that does that. But, you know, for an amateur site like us to have done it, I think says something about where we think the market should be, let alone the actual club. And again, for me, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, it just comes back to the idea of sometimes FC Dallas has solid ideas and then fails the execution. It doesn't get the execution right. You know, like even when we go back to the rebrand, we all felt the rebrand was necessary, but they didn't kill it with the logo. And I loved the hoops. I suggested the hoops.
And the blue and red hoops, right?
Hoops. You know, it's the blue and red with the white shorts as well. Well, I actually wanted black and red, but blue and red because I didn't want them to change colors. But once Lamar wanted to change colors, blue and red with the white shorts. You know, they went with the candy cane looking red and white. So again, good idea, maybe not the greatest execution. It's a continuing trend with FC Dallas. You know, when they have these good basic ideas, sometimes these good concepts, like again, to me, like these ticket packages that appeal to things like Mexican Superstars, not in and of itself a bad idea. It's the execution of it and how you did it, and not spinning it about your team as much as the other team, and people thinking it's your whole outreach, and that's, you know, that's where it went south.
You know, I think the most FC Dallas thing about it may have been, you know, they could have just stuck with it and doubled down and say, or just modified it and say, you know, modified
it.
Yeah, they deleted it as if it never happened, and that's kind of something that's happened in the past as well. You know, like the red and white hoops, they doubled down on it for a few years and like, hey, we're the hoops. They were the only team. You know, you knew if you saw an MLS jersey.
Yeah.
From half a mile away, it was an FC Dallas jersey, and it was like, okay, we're going red on red. We don't like hoops anymore. Please stop calling us that.
Well, that's why I suggested it in the first place, was because you can make the pattern a definitive part of your branding, and then you own that branding. And anytime anybody sees it, they know who it is. For me, that's what kit design is about, is that from the top of the stands, I can instantly tell, or on TV, I can instantly tell who's playing because I'm aware of the branding of the team. Manchester United, red jersey, white pants, black socks. You know who that is.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I mean, you know, you want you want to
Celtic.
walk past the TV and not
Yeah.
see the scorebar to see who's playing. You want that Boca Juniors or Atlas or Arsenal or
Yankee
pinstripes. Yeah, anything that is like you want to create iconography.
Yes, exactly. And that was why I suggested hoops. They could have chosen any kind of pattern, whether it be solid color patterns or whether it be your stripes, like Atlantis with the black and white stripes, right? That's the 5 stripes. That's their whole branding, iconography, right?
Well,
like,
except for the second shirt where it became 9.
I know, right? But still, it's black and white vertical stripes. Like AC Milan's got the stripes, Inter Milan's got the stripes. It's like those brandings. Gremio with their blue and blue. It's different colors of blue, but blue and blue. It just depends on.
Sampdoria
in many ways. Yeah. River Plate with their white with the slash, which looks like is that Peru? They look like but still, that was the point. But we got way sidetracked on branding, but it's just like sometimes the execution is not there with this club, even though sometimes they have good basic ideas. Sometimes it just doesn't come across right.
I wouldn't worry.
They fumble badly, and there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? They got on Sports Center with this thing, and people were talking about him, so.
I wouldn't worry too much about getting sidetracked with kit stuff because the last time we did that, 1,500 people listened.
Yeah, I know, right? That was crazy.
Which I think that was a record last week. That was impressive, yeah.
Was a record for the podcast. Thanks for listening, everybody.
So thank you. If you enjoyed it, buy a t-shirt and subscribe to Patreon.
Yeah.
Speaking of, any publicity is good publicity. FC Dallas announced their new radio partner earlier today. We knew something was coming. We didn't know exactly what, but they've announced a deal with 105.3 The Fan to do some advertising and have a paid segment on Thursday afternoons on the KNC Masterpiece. So what did you make of that? It's a shame we don't have Peter because Peter is the radio guy.
Yeah. Well, let's give a little background, and I don't want to speak for Peter, but let's give a little background. Myself, I mentioned a couple of times I work in television. Peter works in radio, so we're familiar with, on the big scheme of things, how these deals often work. And there's an important distinction to make, and this is where we want to give the kick around some credit because the Ticket decided 5 years ago they wanted a soccer show, and they made a soccer show. They created a soccer show, and they brought Peter and Andy in, and that's a ticket show. You can buy adverts on that show if you like, and FC Dallas has done that as part of their sponsorship occasionally with the Ticket. They occasionally have bought commercials on the Kick Around, but the Kick Around is a Ticket-produced show that they generated, and that's why there's no specific agenda for them to talk about FC Dallas, although they do to some extent during the season. That show is not about FC Dallas. And some credit goes to those guys for having the only completely original station-generated soccer show. So they get some love for that. The difference between what FC Dallas is doing is what we call in the business a buy, where Dallas is paying or sometimes is sharing costs, depending on how it works, with your TV station or your radio station. Most TV deals for FC Dallas in the past have been this kind of buy or barter situation or a shared cost situation, as opposed to, say, the Mavericks, who have a 10-year whatever, I don't even know what it is, where they announced this 10-year, $50 million deal where Fox is paying them $50 million to do their games. This is not like that. This is a situation where FC Dallas is buying some time in partnership. They call it a partnership with the station. They're going to have Lucci on there, but it's like that's why they do this, is that the team can dictate the content in the sense that you're going to talk about FC Dallas. So they did do a buy on ESPN 103. They've now taken that off and they've now moved to 105.3. I like for me, it's a little bit of a step up in the station. I like that. It's a little more local focused than the ESPN is for me. I like that these two guys are soccer fans, not that Peter and Andy are not, but it's a different animal. And Peter and Andy have had, as they tweeted out today, they've had an open invitation for FC Dallas to bring on people every weekend if they want in the studio, bring somebody on. And there have been occasions where they've taken them up on that and brought people on, but they don't all the time. But I'm excited for this deal. I think it's actually really good because you're going to get Lucci on there with guys who like and follow soccer and will talk soccer with him. That's really positive. By doing a deal like this, hopefully the rest of the station, what you want a partner that will embrace this deal a little bit and promote it and talk about it on other shows maybe and say, oh, yeah, that's coming up. So all those things are positive. And I know and we've talked about this, that the games will not be on 105.3. The games and radio will still be on the FC Dallas website, but We'll have to see how invested 105.3 is in it. But more exposure to FC Dallas is good. Being on this station, I think, is good. Being on with guys who like soccer, I think, is good. So I'm feeling pretty positive about this move. Incremental move, better move. FC Dallas continues to get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better in terms of their media and their TV and their radio. So I like the progression, and I think it's overall pretty positive.
I do like that. It's the KNC masterpiece. It's 1:30 time slot. That is currently the highest rated sports show in the market, which is kind of a great thing to jump on. We've seen the fan kind of overtake the ticket in the ratings. How long that lasts, who knows? But it's definitely riding the crest of a wave at the moment. And like you say, Kevin Hagel and Corey Majors, the host of the KNC masterpiece. You will definitely see Kevin Hageland out at FC Dallas games with his son. I think Corey Majors goes as well, but as the stations had a few FC Dallas guests on in their previous time slot at 7 p.m. because no one from the Cowboys and the Mavs and the Rangers is going to do an interview at that time. They had Lucci on, they had Reggie, they had Paxton, they had Reggie and Paxton taking shots at each other from one week to the next, and Lucci gave this like crazy impromptu coaching clinic as like a phone call-in thing, and it was good to have guys who have like at least a base level of soccer. It's not going to be Peter and Andy or Bob Sturm. That would definitely be a dream, but as far as getting FC Dallas talked about on a midweek primetime radio show, this may be the best executed time buy that FC Dallas have done in at least the time I've lived here.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I said, it's not a revolutionary step, but it's an incremental positive step. And again, from time to time, this club has good ideas, and time to time they come up with an execution that I think is pretty positive. And it's not as good as if they were, 100% getting paid to have a thing, but it's a step in the right direction, and I like the deal. I think it's positive.
I think what you're trying to say is even a broken clock's right twice a day.
Well, no, they a lot of times have good ideas, and sometimes it's like
it's getting it past the finish line.
Yeah, getting it over the line. It's a mistake, and it doesn't go well. This one, I think they've gotten over the line. I think this is a pretty good one.
Yeah, I think it's good as well. I like that it's going to be Lucci. Gina Miller pops on a lot of things, which is great to talk about FC Dallas as a brand. But when it comes to soccer, it would be like putting Lucci on one of the shows where the guys don't like soccer, and then having Dan Hunt on. Dan has come on so much in terms of how he deals with media stuff, but he's still very awkward, and he's on a very set track. And if you steer away from that track ever so slightly or wobble him off it, he kind of gets flustered, and it doesn't make for particularly great listening.
No, it's good. I agree with you. Lucci being on there is going to be good. You can develop a little bit of personality with your coach and develop a little bit of awareness of your coach in the marketplace. I think that's a good thing.
He's also, he's also a lot of fun to talk to. We talk to him enough. And when he has gone on the radio, he talks about fashion and music and real life things. And it's kind of that show particularly is, the fan is very much, if you want to hear 8 hours of people constantly talking about Dak Prescott, will he or won't you get a deal? That show tends to be the one that gets the license to sway away from it a bit and go into hockey and some soccer and some other stuff. So,
excellent.
It's kind of funny because it's definitely the one that people either love or hate when you look at social media. But, for FC Dallas fans, hey, it's actually... You've got something that isn't just listening to us on repeat, where you can hear FC Dallas talked about on a midweek. What a crazy concept! Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. Anyone listening to this podcast is already a hardcore FC Dallas fan. Where FC Dallas needs to make roads is in the casual sports fan and even in the non-sports fan community, where their brand awareness is, oh, that's a youth team, or Oh, well, you mean the burn or you mean the sidekicks? They definitely have some brand building to do.
Oh,
and if they can get onto the major sports station and get even like some recognition by annoyance, like what is this is interrupting my normal thing?
Yeah,
I mean, even that could get you brand awareness.
And that's the thing. Like, I think Travis Frederick is a great interview. I don't like the NFL. I might occasionally watch a Cowboys game, but it's just on in the background. But he is a very real and charismatic person. And that makes for a good interview, and it makes you say, that guy plays for, represents my local team, and I'm going to support that guy. Like with Dirk as well. Dirk doesn't. When he did his interviews, he didn't talk about basketball. He talked about anything but it. Having a more casual setting is going to be a good platform for FC Dallas.
Yeah, and it'd be perfect for Lucci to go on there and talk about Mexican superstars coming to town.
Yeah. Maybe they can ask him to rate the best Lomo Saltado in DFW. Hit those Peruvian links.
Yeah.
Wow, it's definitely been quite a week with that. I thought it was going to be a quiet one with the team down in over in California and down in San Antonio, but apparently it's never a quiet week when FC Dallas Marketing's involved.
Yeah, for sure not. I have one more game topic I want to talk about if we're done with Mexican superstars and radio deals.
I'm always done with Mexican superstars and radio deals. I don't know why we got on that in the first place.
Well, they're important things to talk about. All right, my one last thing was the appearance of Tanner Tessman tonight because, granted there was a bunch of bodies missing, but still he was the guy that they chose to elevate and played in a first-team scrimmage, 2 weeks before the season starts. It's kind of a big deal. Nothing has really changed in his situation in the sense that Clemson is still on the table, and that's still the way it's going to work, and he's going to play for the 19s and North Texas probably through May, June, July, whatever, and then go to Clemson. But the only way that can change is for FC Dallas to come up with a substantial, strong, homegrown offer. The kid's not going to take a North Texas deal. It's basic. The guy can add up math as well as you and I can. He knows what homegrown deals are worth, and he knows what Clemson's worth. He knows what a chance to play football and soccer they're both are worth. And, it's not going to take – a North Texas deal is not going to get it done. So if you want to see more of those gorgeous 50-yard crossing passes that he whipped out tonight, trademark Tanner Tessman ball, I hope to see it happen. The kid's, as we say, grown-ass man, trademark Eddie Johnson. So I think he's ready for a home run deal. I think he's ready to help the MLS roster. I hope that they can find a way to sign him, but, North Texas ain't going to do it.
I asked Tanner who was playing in a position during one of the scrimmages, and I thought he was going to steal my lunch money. He's that big.
He is a big man. What's he, 6'3"? That's amazing for a central midfielder.
Yeah, it's amazing for a young guy that mobile too. And you've got a pretty similar. Going back to the homegrown thing, you've got a pretty similar thing going on with Nico Carrera, obviously over in Germany, training with Nuremberg, potentially going off to, is it Louisville?
Louisville. Okay. The Cardinals.
Yeah, but obviously you want to tie him up. It's kind of funny, I've Google alerts set up for FC Dallas stuff, and there are still Mexican national team prospect sites going on about, hey, he can still reverse his FIFA change at this point. Please do.
Can he?
That allegedly, I don't know.
Oh, you get your one-time switch. Yeah, one-time switch, right. Well, between all the guys that are in the academy all make college commitments. Kevin Binney is committed to Portland. Carrera's committed to Louisville. Seth Wilson is committed to Clemson. Tanner's committed to Clemson. They all get college commitments. They all have their baseline opportunities. And if you want them to progress to a pro level, you're going to have to compensate them. And in the case of Tanner, when you add in that Clemson football, it makes it even worse. That relationship with Dabo Swinney, it makes it even worse. It's going to be harder to get him. But, he was an MVP of the academy team and the playoff MVP for the academy a year ago when he was younger. And now he's a year older and a year more mature. And there's no question for me that he's ready to be a part of the MLS club. Some of those other guys I think could use a little bit of North Texas in between, but it's a case where there's 5 or 6 guys that need to, that in my opinion, are going to be better served by playing for North Texas, and they're just not taking those deals. They're going to go to college, and it's just not going to be as good. Playing for North Texas is far, far, far and away a better opportunity as college is structured right now. And I hope they can find a way to get it done, because otherwise, college is good, college is fun, but college is not where if you want to be a pro, just look at how far behind the guys coming out of college and being drafted right now are compared to the kids like Jesus Ferreira, who've been in 3 years of pro already.
That was a really impassioned play. I'm incredibly impressed with that.
Thanks. Are you making fun of me?
No, but if that wasn't part of the episode, that would be a cold open.
Well, maybe you clip a piece out of it.
You don't want to bury the lead. It is definitely the biggest challenge facing FC Dallas over the next few years is holding on to these guys. And, you particularly hammered the point home about players not taking that North Texas step, and, how to get around it, how to get homegrowns, how to stop them from exploring Europe like the Gomez's, and ensure that the talent that you're investing in is the talent that you keep onto.
Yeah, we've talked about it for a couple of weeks now, and it remains an issue that they've got to figure out how to solve this problem. And now it may take them a couple of years. You may lose a guy to Europe like a Nico or like a, it's the homegrowns are always going to be the homegrowns, and that Tanner should be one. And the guys that are just a skosh below that maybe need a little more time, those 4 or 5 dudes that need to go to North Texas and are not, and then the guys that are the next tier down, who I like but are just not quite there, is Gibran Rayo, Emmanuel Almaguer. Those guys are willing to take those North Texas deals because they feel like they really need that opportunity, whereas the dudes in the middle are thinking, man, I deserve to be a pro. And they're going to go chase other opportunities, and that's what's happening, Or they're going to say, "I'll just go ahead and go to college, and then maybe a year from now I'll get that pro offer." You take your Brandon Cervania and your Reggie Cannon, one and done, maybe. So maybe that's the way that you can get a Tanner is, okay, you can go to Clemson, have that 1 year of football, have that 1 year as a starter for Clemson, and then we're going to nab you right back maybe for next year as your homegrown.
Okay, well, I think that really wraps it up for this week. It's been another stray beyond an hour edition of the podcast, and that's even without Peter's dulcet tones kind of guiding us through this murky world of FC Dallas and North Texas soccer.
Well, it does feel better when he's around, but I think we covered everything we wanted to cover, and you and I are getting a little more used to doing it without him, but hopefully he'll be here most of the time, and because he is a professional contribution to the podcast.
Yeah, and that's why the episodes that he edits sound so much better. Where we aren't on completely different volumes.
Yeah, that one last time I was way too soft last time. Hopefully,
it was a real role reversal there.
Yeah,
but thank you very much for stopping by and joining us for another episode of the podcast. I think next week it will be number 50 as we roll on to the start of the 2020 season.
Yeah, and if you like what we do on the website and the podcast, you can support us at patreon.com/Third Degree and throw us $1 or $2 or whatever you would like to, and whatever you think the site and the work we do is worth, and give us some support.
So serious question. Obviously the flying horse is amazing, but why isn't there a Thomas Roberts whispering T-shirt yet?
I don't know. That's a good question. I need to figure out how to translate a Thomas Roberts whisper into a graphic. That's a good question. I do have a T-shirt I'm making to start the season that is an awesome Lucci quote that I found, better than Rondo's that I'll have at the start of the season. It's terrific. But
there's nothing better than Rondo's.
Rondo's is pretty good, but this quote's pretty good. So I don't want to spoil it for everybody. But that'll be coming in the next 2 weeks, and I'll think about how I make a Thomas Roberts whisper T-shirt. I'll have to figure out how to do that.
Oh, I might have to break out, folks.
I have an idea actually. Now that you say it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm interested to see. So this Lucci quote is it up there with the next guy that calls soccer boring? I'm going to punch him in the face. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it is. We'll see if everyone else agrees with me, but I think it's close to that level.
Wow, that is you could go back and even do an old Oscar Pereira one that was just the death stare that he did at us occasionally. That's when you've earned his respect or you've really pissed him off.
Well, I need to find an artist to draw Oscar like Che Guevara and do like a Oscar Pereira style shirt that looks like that. That would be clever.
So I did like 60-foot tifos of him. Pretty good at drawing him.
Oh, all right. There you go. There's your assignment.
And I'm not doing tifos anymore, so there you go.
Yeah.
So, actually, speaking of which, the Dallas Beer Guardians, No Matador, are currently producing the opening day tifo. It sounds like a really good design. It'll be interesting to see what the supporters groups bring in the coming season. Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. I'm starting to get excited for the season now that we can apply for credentials and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get some good tifo this year. I love a good tifo. I'm not involved with tifo, but I still enjoy them. I think it's fantastic. And I love the smoke bombs they let happen last year. That's great. I mean, they're embracing some of the supporter culture, and that's a great positive stride. Down to, I believe Jimmy Smith's been responsible for some of that happening, so credit to him.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, I've been on that side of the meetings and stuff, and the supporters groups fight so hard just to get the smallest things to make the atmosphere better, which in turn is probably the best marketing tool that FC Dallas can have. MLS just did one of their This Is Our Soccer promos this year, and there is the Hoops Clap, which was which was an organic thing that started in the beer garden a few years ago. It was, that featured at the very end. It was kind of like that final impression of MLS fans. So that's definitely a huge step forward for a club that's normally mocked for its attendance and family atmosphere.
Well, I think things are slowly getting better around here. I think I see little improvements from time to time, and then as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot all the time, but they get some things going a little bit in the right direction from time to time, and I feel positive about the progress being towards where we would want it to be. It's still a long way to go.
See, we're not bad people. We may call out FC Dallas for stupid crap like Mexican superstars, but we'll give them their due as well.
Yeah, it's got to walk the balance.
Yeah, we're just straight down the middle, call it as we see it, like all good journalisty type people should be.
Well, we try and cover the team in the context of the league and the ownership being what it is. We pipe dreams are nice, but you have to live in the reality of the club and the reality of the league and the reality of this club's place in it, and know what it's going to be like and know how they're going to do business and then deal with it in that context. And then it's perfectly reasonable to be both positive and negative when it's appropriate.
Seems like a pretty good place to bring this to a close. Well, in that case, thank you for joining us. I know I already said that earlier on this 49th edition of the podcast. And thank you, Buzz, for your insight as always.
You're welcome.
Thomas freaking Roberts.